Hi, yeah, sure. My name is Phil Gilbert, and I head up IBM Design, which is the global design initiative for IBM.
Cool. We also want to ask this question, like, where did your journey start? Like, where did you start with design, or even before that?
Well, it's a good question. I started with design before it was called design. In the early 1980s, I got bitten by the bug of computers at the time, which distributed computers, personal computers were very new at the time. And I felt like they were maybe had a good shot of changing the world, and so I kind of jumped into it, and I started my first company back then. And the problems I was trying to solve back then were really the problems of how people in business could better use this new technology, could better use information to make decisions better, to make more money if you're in business, or to do better work if you're in the government or in a nonprofit. At the time, it was, quite frankly, not very many people in business, other than administrative roles, used technology. It was all still, handwritten or dictating machines, which are kind of in museums now, but that's the way it happened at the time. And so as an entrepreneur, I had to figure out a way to sell my software. Mm-hmm. And I got involved with the people that made the original, the Lisa, which was the precursor to the Mac, and the people that were making and building Windows at the time. And I started working in those environments, quite frankly, to make payroll. I just started trying to design or build software that people wanted to use because they didn't have to use. It wasn't until probably a decade later, and that went well, and we did very well. It wasn't until about a decade later when people like David Kelly and Bill Moggridge and really the designers in the technology space started asserting themselves and really came up with or codified these notions called design thinking and other things. And the concept of intentional design and beautiful design, obviously it was certainly pioneered by Apple with the Mac, but it wasn't really wide scale. At least it didn't get named until the 90s. And so in my second company, I really started intentionally kind of figuring out, okay, how do you build desirable software right from the get-go? How do you achieve your intention? And how do you achieve your intention with complicated teams that are spread over many sites? And how do you build intentional outcomes when you're solving very complex problems? So I really started kind of thinking about there must be a method and a process. David Kelly at IDEO had started talking about design thinking, kind of the first inklings of a process or a method. Alan Cooper was obviously a big part of it. Don Norman. There certainly were some deep thinkers then. And that's when it really became design as opposed to just trying to sell my stuff. Mm-hmm. Worked on that for a while, and then sold that company, and my third company got bought by IBM. And I don't know that we had perfected it. I certainly wouldn't say we had perfected it, but we really took it another step forward. And now here at IBM, working at the scale of IBM, we're taking those that same objective, which is, the objective is, how do we intentionally achieve wonderful outcomes repeatedly over complex problems? And that has become what we call IBM design thinking. And that's kind of, the Cliff Note version of why I'm here and what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that no day is alike at IBM and where you work, but sort of, what's your favorite task, or what's the favorite thing you do in a day?
That's very simple. Interact with the design campers in the studio. Design Camp is, we actually have a couple of flavors of it. There is a design camp that we have for new hires, and it's a 3-month program that all of our new hires go through for 3 months. And then there's 1-week design camps where we bring in our existing IBM product teams, the leadership of those teams, multidisciplinary. So we bring in, you know, the lead engineers, the lead product managers, and the lead designers, and we put them through a very intense 1-week experience. Working with the design campers, whether it's the existing project teams and product teams, or whether it is the new hires, is far and away the most exciting and the most rewarding thing that I do. You know, I spend a lot of time recruiting. I spend a lot of time working with various parts of the business in trying to think about the top level design of IBM and our business, and how our products and how our offerings should come out in the marketplace. But working with people in the studio is, and seeing the aha moments, or seeing the growth of a new designer, and really taking what they've been working on throughout their career, whether it's only in school or in school plus maybe some industry, and really starting to understand how to do it at a place like IBM, which is complex, and at a place like IBM, which is solving complex problems in the world. Seeing them mature their design thinking skills to those kinds of outcomes is tremendously gratifying. So.
Cool, thanks. That was really good. I'm very into holistic living, and you mentioned holistic design down in your talk. Could you elaborate on what you mean about that?
Sure. And our notion of holistic design, it really goes back to the foundation of design at IBM, which started, as I said, in 1956 with Elliott Noyes. And we have always, if you think about IBM, even our current agenda, which is called Smarter Planet, right? And then we have tactical initiatives underneath that, which we call Smarter Cities, where we really are making, you know, the systems of cities better. If you think about IBM at that level and how we conceive of our mission, we believe that as a leader in providing solutions that empower human beings, that we need to engage human beings holistically. We need to break down any barrier that you have that prevents you from adopting and accelerating the adoption of technology to make your life better. And your life, it could be your personal life, it could be the life of your community, it could be the life of the continent that you live on. But if we think about this experience, if we think about the impediment to you engaging in that conversation, it goes well beyond me just handing you a product that you can use really well. It actually starts with how I talk to you and the words that I use. It starts with the buildings that you walk into. You've got a beautiful facility. I just got a tour here. It's incredible. You know, when I walk into your media studio, when I walked into your recording studio, which I'm very jealous about, by the way, when I walk into your server room and I see that you're still teaching the tactics of broadcast, right? All of these things have to come together. The facility, the conversation, the language that we use, the values that we hold. All of these things have to come together in order for you to fully engage in this experience, right? It's the same thing for our clients. And so we very much believe that we have to have you know, great places for people to come. We have to have great places for our employees to be. We have to communicate very well, and so we spend a lot of, you know, our marketing and communications people worry a lot about, you know, fonts and typography and the words that we use. Smarter Planet is an amazing, you know, if you walk through airports and you see the campaign, there's a real communication that goes on about what technology can do for you that we hope gets across. So it has to be holistic for us to accomplish our mission, which is the engagement of humanity in the advancement of humanity. And we believe we have to be an essential, we can be, you know, the essential company that can do that. And so that's why you know, design is a very holistic concept for us, and we believe it's an imperative that it's holistic.
You mentioned Smarter Planet working in Africa, and I assume and know that IBM is in hundreds of different countries. It must be difficult to design in different languages, language barriers. Like, how do you design for that, and how do you approach and solve those problems?
You know, it's a great question, and we haven't perfected it, but we're trying. There's a couple of things that we do by design. We talk about not being in countries, but of countries. And when you talk about the number of countries that we are of, it's over 180. This is where it starts. IBM has had a commitment to citizenship, but also to creating citizens since our founding. You know, IBM was the first Western company in China back in the 1930s. We now are making a huge investment in the continent of Africa. And so it starts with people. It starts with where our people are. It starts with who those people are in those countries. It's not a bunch of expats that are on serving, you know, a 2-year term. It's people of those countries. So it starts there. Now, from a specifically design perspective, we started this global program just about 18 months ago. And we very intentionally started small. We wanted to focus, and so we very intentionally started on North America and the UK. That's where we are if you took a snapshot of it today. We have designers in Shanghai, we have designers in Africa, but we've really focused our education efforts in North America and the UK. That's changing in 2014. So in 2014, we are going to be soon to be announcing our new studio in Shanghai. We're working now with our people in India, who will operate primarily out of the Shanghai lab, but it will be for that continent, or that country. And we are working in all of the other countries. So I mean, it starts with the people, and then you develop processes and programs that actually scales it out. We do a good job of kind of rudimentary design for language right now. What I think we can improve on is design for culture. And that's really the next frontier, and it's why we need to get people in these countries and of these countries that actually understand that actually not just can create the empathic connection with our users that we need, but actually are those users themselves. And so the empathy is just built in. So we're hiring now, and we'll see if we can get better at that.
Cool. As we all know, mobiles and tablets and different sizes is all around us. How is IBM approaching that with sort of the mobile first? Are you using that term? Like, elaborate on that? Yep.
We got on the mobile first bandwagon last year, and so all of our growth, what we call growth initiatives, all of our growth areas of the business are all starting mobile first. Certainly our design, we've just recently internally adopted a new design language for our products. We will be releasing that set of human interface guidelines for enterprise applications and software. We'll be releasing those to the world in March, and those kind of contemplate mobile as a first-class citizen in the world of our design language. So we're making a huge investment in mobile, not just in the device side, but also in the management of device side. When you get into the enterprise software space, it turns out that the management of those devices and the security of those devices and the information that flows over those devices is actually a pretty thorny issue that hasn't yet been fully solved. We're actually bringing a lot of resources to bear on that, and I think we're doing a good job of that. And a lot of our design efforts in the mobile space are not just on the mobile devices themselves, but around the tools and the services that are required to actually manage those things at scale.
It's very interesting. You said a lot of great things. It was very inspiring listening to your talk. You said lovable design. That really caught my eye. And could you just, what's your thoughts around lovable design? How is that for the people, sort of?
Yeah, you know, I do aspire to creating software that is lovable and loved. I think that's doable. I think it's doable in the enterprise space. I don't have any. I wish I had some, prototypes here to show you, but some of the new interaction patterns. A lot of people think that that's just the visual design of it, and certainly the visual design plays a big role in evoking emotion. And what we're really talking about is creating an emotional experience for our users, right? That I'm attached to this thing, that this is actually, it's actually helping me do my job better, and I know that it's helping me do my job better. I want to use it, and I enjoy using it. We're doing some amazing design in that area to really get under the skin of what it is that our users really are trying to do when they sit down at one of the tools in their business, right? I don't think, that it's, Word for Windows. I don't think people love that. I think that there are ways to generate enterprise applications that are lovable, though. We just released last week, or we just announced last week, I should say, our concept car, if you will, although it's a little more real than a concept car. We're actually going to start delivering into it in the second quarter of this year. We just released last week a thing that we called IBM Mail Next, and it's basically the reimagining of messaging. It's not just a mail client. It's, wait a second, all this message information that's coming in to me as a worker, what does it all mean, and what do I really do with it? And we really spent a lot of great design time. We spent a lot of great user research time really trying to understand how people think about and what they really want out of all these damn messages that are piling up on us. And came out with some very interesting insights. Primarily that it's not about the message, it's actually about the person behind the message. And it's about the relationships of that person to me and to my company. So it's a completely reimagining of it, and the response from the prototypes and what have you has just been phenomenal. People love it. And I'd like to see every one of our products and solutions have that level of love and support. We have to get there.
Great. I'm just going to finish up with one question. Before you arrived, we watched a show reel, and I can't remember the name of the guy, where he said, "Good design is good business." That's also something that caught my eye, and this must be something you've experienced from your earlier, even before you were at IBM and managed to sell your company to IBM. Like, how is that for you?
Well, it's the basis of everything we do. That guy was Thomas Watson Jr., who is the son of our founder. And when he said that, he actually first wrote it. I've actually got a copy of at the time it was a corporate policy letter, corporate policy number 123, and that's where he said, it starts out, good design is good business. And then here's the CEO of IBM in 1966 at the time, he laid out probably the most concise statement about how a company should approach holistic design that I've ever read. It's one paragraph, it's 3 or 4 sentences, and it's good design means that our clients understand us better, enjoy doing business with us better, and will come back more often. And it's all based on this notion, getting back to, I think, your first question about holistic design. Mm-hmm. It's all about that. But that was Thomas Watson, and then he delivered a speech to the Wharton Business School in the U.S. In 1972 or 73. And the title of his speech is Good Design is Good Business. It's actually also a very good speech. It was toward the end of his career at IBM. And, but he was he really had a vision. You know, it's kind of interesting when you delve into the history of it all. There's a story in Steve Jobs' book where he was very influenced. Before he took the famous calligraphy class, after he had dropped out, and he took the calligraphy class where he was going to school, and that changed his life about art and fonts, and of course everything else follows. His initial, one of his very initial inspirations, other than his dad, was Paul Rand. And it was the work that Rand had done around IBM's graphics and logo. And in fact, he ends up hiring Paul Rand to do the next logo. You know, somebody sent me a note. It's obviously frivolous, but you know, without IBM's approach to design, and without a holistic approach to design, and without Paul Rand, where is Steve Jobs, right? And it's just an interesting historical insight into the unforeseen power of great design.